Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Now, I've told Damien Green that if he answers all the next questions truthfully and accurately, he will get his benefits. But first, Allegra, what's been the reaction to Damien Green?
Well, out there, Treasury civil servant, ex-Treasury civil servant, Jonathan Portes, he wants you to get something clarified. Damien Green just claimed savings from ESA cuts will be redirected to the work and health programmes. Can he confirm that? But before he does, very quickly, I have an exercise for him. Now, our guest is a central part of a Brexit government, but in the past he has swooned big time over the UK being members of the EU. So I want to ask you both, Robert and Damien, I can see you drumming your fingers on the side of your chair, who said the following things, you or the other big figure who intervened this week on Europe, Tony Blair, in our first ever game of Peston on Sunday. Now, the first question is, who said this? Leaving the EU would do long-term harm to the economic interests of this country as well as to our position in the world. You or Blair?
Probably both of us. I can imagine myself
right, so that means you're half right. You did.
Yeah, I said that. Okay.
The next one, OK. I believe passionately that leaving the Europe would leave Britain diminished in the world.
I would have said that as well, but on guesswork, I'll say that was Tony Blair.
Yeah, right, OK, you're right. OK, you're doing very well. OK, last one. If we left, the EU would not give us a better deal than they have for themselves. We would have lower economic growth.
I said that, I think.
You did? My God, you aced that. What a good sport. Robert.
Before we get on to go, I'm going to go up because you've got Europe. I must put Jonathan Portes' point to you. Have you just said something new about the proceeds?
No, Jonathan should read our the Work and Health Green Paper. Everyone should. It's called Improving Lives. What we're saying is that
the savings
we want
there
to
will
put more money.
Of them.
Some of them, not all of them. Some of them are savings. But no, we want to spend more money.
Some of the money will go
on helping, specifically helping disabled people into work, because there are 4.5 million working age people with a disability, most of whom want to work. There's a big gap. Only 80% of able-bodied people of working age work is less than 50% of people with a disability. We need to close that gap.
Now, as we've just seen, you did spend quite a lot of your adult life campaigning for the European Union.
Feels like it.
Tony Blair said this week that he thought the option should be kept open of a second referendum, and lots of your colleagues heaped very unpleasant stuff on him, including people from Downing Street. What is so ridiculous about the idea that as and when we know a bit more about what Brexit means, that British people should have a second vote on this?
Well, I don't think we want a second referendum. I think, not least for the point of view of wider discourse. I think that I argued in advance, actually. I wasn't one of those who said there shouldn't be a referendum, because I did think that this was such an important issue that there was a literally once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to decide it. And from my point of view, I would have wished the decision went the other way. I'm a Remainer, but not a Remoaner.
Sure.
I accept the decision, and I think we should now get on with.
But when
Brexit.
Your colleagues somehow accuse people like Blair and Clegg, and indeed John Major, of somehow being traitors, that's a bit bonkers, isn't it?
No, I think there's a wider point here about one of the things that's wrong with this country is the political discourse we have. It's become abusive, it's become personal, and it's not good for democracy. So I suggest everyone on all sides of the Brexit argument or of any other argument, let's be civilised. Let's agree that you can hold positions on either side of an argument and still respect each other. Dominic and I debated during the campaign itself. We passionately disagreed with each other, but we remained friends, and that, I think, is a much better way to conduct democratic politics.
So some of the hysteria that you're seeing, you feel very uncomfortable about?
I feel uncomfortable about the level of abuse, of personal abuse, that has spread to some extent from social media, where it's always been present, into, if you like, mainstream political discussion. It's not good for the health of our politics.
Damien Green, thank you so much. We're now going to have a little bit of a chat about all that with Dominic Raab and Lisa Nandy. Dominic, I mean, it seemed to me that many people will think that what Damien Green just said is perfectly reasonable. You can disagree with Tony Blair and John Major, but the kind of abuse that's been heaped on them feels perhaps a bit over the top.
I think we need to shift from the polarised referendum debate to how can we make Brexit work. And I think the language and the tone is absolutely key, and I agree with everything Damien said. I guess people are going to say, look, this is a guy, Tony Blair, who promised a first referendum, didn't keep his promise on that, and now wants a second one. So I think it's pretty fair to call people up.
But it's not anti-democratic, though, to talk about giving people a vote. I mean, after all, after that initial referendum back in the 70s, you know, the Eurosceptics immediately got to work to try
and... They didn't get one, we just had one. I guess the point is, when we passed this legislation by 6 to 1, I think it was, we had this debate in the House of Commons. We said this was going to be a decision we give to the British people and then respect it. And Paddy Ashdown, another person calling for this, was on referendum night saying he would forgive no one who didn't respect the outcome of the referendum. So I think people want to see us get on and deliver that now. But what we do need to do, and where I agree with Damien, and lots of people on the Remain side, is we need to try and work together and forge a bit more of a unity of purpose.
Lisa, what do you think about this idea of a possible second vote and, you know, Tony Blair and John Major arguing for this?
I don't see much appetite for a second referendum, but I do think that the last point that Dominic made was really important, is that there are a significant minority of people in this country who voted for Remain, who feel very, very anxious about the future. They need to be given a voice in the negotiations. And actually, what we shouldn't have is a situation where we're told that now that we've got the outcome of the referendum, and as Damien said, we've got to get on with it and deliver it, that we can't have a debate about what that looks like. And part of the problem we've had in politics in the last few months is that anybody who tries to raise questions about what the shape of that deal might look like and what the consequences will be for people's lives have been told that they're just ramoning and that they need to stop. Well, actually, it would be irresponsible not to ask those questions.
I've been getting